Good morning, everyone. This is Julie McDonald with Microcom Technologies, and I'd like to thank all of you for attending today's webinar with EnGenius. Today's host is Tone Nguyen, and he is a product manager. He will be presenting today, and if anyone has any, please submit them in the question box, and Tone will answer them at the end of the presentation. I'm finished for now. Thank you so much for being with us today. We greatly appreciate it. Please go ahead and take it on over.
Thank you, Julie. And thank you everyone for joining today. We're here to talk a little bit about the EnGenius Duophone Roam product. It's basically a cordless phone for employees who are roaming around facilities. They're not your desk standard cubicle employee. It's a SIP-based communication product, but you'll find that it's a very unique product in that when you're looking for customers, it's going to be totally different from what your standard customers are. So there's a lot of opportunities out there, a lot of very unique cases where you'll find this phone useful. So when we talk about customers for this phone product, we're talking about people who work in manufacturing plants, grocery stores. We do very well in the assisted living communities. So nurses and staff who roam in these assisted living communities, they walk around, they don't sit at their desks, they're out helping their residents, they're out walking around just cleaning up the rooms, helping people. They're not in one place, so they need a reliable SIP communication device that they can carry and have the range to actually cover the entire facility. We also do in school campuses where the security staff, when they need to communicate in large areas, will use our devices. Warehouses, and I talked about manufacturing plants where there's a lot of equipment and devices that can block signals that people find a hard way of getting actually a way for the employees to communicate with each other. That's where this phone comes in handy. So large scale operators, we're thinking large facilities like warehouses like Costco, Sam's Club, that type of thing. You're thinking about rugged environment workers, people who work outside. We actually sell this product to actually people who work in oil fields. So huge areas in the middle of nowhere. You can't even get cell phone signal. But what they can do is use this cordless phone product to communicate with each other. And it helps when the employees are mobile and they are not tied to a desk. So usually these type of challenges, you'll see the properties that these people have are pretty large. So like a standard phone that you get from Walmart, like your Panasonic or your VTech phone, it's not going to have the same coverage that our phones does. There's going to be obstacles in the way that's going to block the signal. You'll get drop calls, dead zones. Usually the buildings that we find our product as well is odd-shaped buildings. So a building could be L-shaped or it could be Z-shaped, and that blocks signal as well. It doesn't work on Wi-Fi, and it doesn't work on cell phone. It's just a cordless phone, but there's some unique things about it, and I'll talk about it in the next few slides. So the product itself, as you can see here, is the Duophone Roam. It's a cordless phone, and it basically comes with a controller, a base unit, and a handset. So if you are familiar with Wi-Fi, the base units act just very similar to a Wi-Fi access point. It sends out the signal to the handsets, and with this system, you can link up to 8 bases. So what it does is you can place them out throughout your facility, and when somebody's roaming or they're walking from one area of the building to another, the call will still seamlessly hands off from one base to another. Think of it as like your cell phone tower. The signal is always going to be constant. There's not going to be any drop calls as people are walking around the building. What you get when you use a Wi-Fi phone, in scenarios where you use a Wi-Fi phone, is when Wi-Fi phones aren't programmed to do that. So when you go from one access point and you travel from one area to another, it just waits until the signal is totally lost and it just drops the call, and then it reconnects to the other access point. But here, it's going to be seamlessly handing off the call from one base to the other. So there's no loss of the conversation that you're having or the call dropping. No risk of that. The Duophone, which is a product that EnGenius has been selling for 20 plus years. We're absolute leader in the long range cordless phone business. You're not going to find a phone with the kind of range that we're talking about here. It's operates on a unique frequency. It's 900 megahertz, so it doesn't interfere with your Wi-Fi signal. It doesn't interfere with your 2.4 or your 5 gigahertz bandwidth. So it's on its own unique frequency. It's very secure. We do have frequency hopping broad spectrum, so we jump around frequencies to make sure that the signal is not easily intercepted, and we can talk about that later as well. It's a rugged design, so we've had people drop this phone from second-story buildings. We've had people use this phone, bump into it, scratch it, things like that. It doesn't interfere, and it comes with a two-way radio and an intercom built in, and we'll talk about all these features as we're going through. It is SIP-based, so standard SIP 2.0, your standard voice over IP provider. We just connect to that. We work with many solutions before: Avaya, Cisco, Ring Central, Zoom, etc. We've tested it; it works. So most UCAS systems, most voice over IP providers will connect with this. Has 8 bases, 90 handsets, handles 32 concurrent calls, so you can have 32 total calls going on at the same time with the phone system. So I talked a little about the rugged, durable design. So the design, we drop tested this product over 50 times. We literally took it and dropped it from 2 meters or 6 feet over 50 times, and nothing happened to it. It still was totally fine, still working. It's very rugged, very durable. Again, we have people in factories, we have people in very harsh conditions who work outside, who work outdoors, and they drop the phone. It's totally fine. I talked about the 900 frequency. So the 900 megahertz is a unique frequency. So if you know a little bit about RF signals, radio frequency signals, the lower the frequency, the farther it can travel. So there's a range that we operate in, which is the 902 to 928 megahertz range. This is a very unique range. You're not going to find many other products that use this frequency range, and that's why you won't run into much interference. With Wi-Fi, you're not going to travel as far because it's a higher frequency range. And then with your standard DECT phone, which is your Panasonic, your VTech phone that you usually get from the store, it's 1.9 gigahertz, so it doesn't have the range or the penetration power of a 900 megahertz phone. At the same time, we power this up with 1,000 milliwatt, so 1 watt full of power on the actual phone, which is the highest the FCC will allow, which gives us the super long range that no other phone can cover. And we use frequency hopping spot spectrum, which is basically means that every 0.01 seconds, the signal of the actual frequency changes, making sure that your conversation is secure. So we use this phone we have government, military people use this phone. So a lot of agencies, schools, government, military buy our phone just because of the safety and the range that it allows. I talked about the two-way broadcast radio function. So walkie-talkies. A lot of these customers that you find, they'll be using walkie-talkies in these facilities as well. Here, it's built into the phone, so you're basically getting 2 devices built into one. Sometimes people will carry a cell phone and a walkie-talkie. Here, you're getting both. You'll be able to receive calls from outside, as well as have one-on-one conversations with intercom or broadcast features. You can broadcast from one handset to many. So imagine we have this in a grocery store, and you broadcast to your cleanup team like, hey, clean up on aisle 4, and everybody goes there. So you can have really quick broadcast communications, make sure your staff is in sync with each other as well. Big thing about it is the roaming capability. Like I said, like it travels like it's like a cell phone tower. Handset travels from one base to the other. Usually, as you can see in this example, the building is kind of odd shape. So we put a lot of different a lot of different bases around the building, make sure that the whole building is covered, allowing like a janitor or a security staff to walk around the entire building and not worry about it. Multi-floor buildings, you could put it on the bases on different floors. If you spread out 8 bases, we find that it can cover about 12 floors worth of buildings. So when we talk about the range of our devices, we used to sell a Duraphone Pro and the Duraphone SIP. We still do. It's the older model. I don't know if some of you might be familiar with that, but the latest model, the Duraphone Roam, it can cover in obstructed buildings like hotels, offices, and school, about 200,000 square feet. Think about that. That's a really huge amount of space that we can cover. Most buildings nowadays about 50,000 square feet, but here it's 200,000 square feet. In warehouses, 1 million square feet. And in completely open fields like golf courses and stadiums, maybe 3,000 acres. And like I mentioned before, we've had customers who use this on oil fields who are just like really like maybe even a mile apart and the signal still can carry through. Below you'll see some examples if you can't picture it. So if you're talking about a high building, 16 homes stacked high on top of each other. That's how much range it covers. 200 basketball courts or 2,200 American football fields if you're talking about an open space. So very, very, very large areas, very good coverage, and that's who the customer that you want to search for this device. It is also cloud managed. So if you are familiar with EnGenius, we have a cloud management portal where you can manage all the phones. So you can keep track of the topology of the phone, how it's set up, which devices are working, making sure everything working properly. You can import, export phone books. So if you have a new employee just coming on and you give them a phone, just import and export the phone book from a previous phone from another employee. You can monitor your signal strength, how strong the handsets are working at that moment, and see if there's some that are traveling out of range and maybe you need to move a base over closer to them. You can also do remote firmware updates. So that's one of the challenges with phone systems if they're not cloud-based, is that if you need a firmware update, more security, more features, you need to actually manually have the phone sent back to you and do it. Here, we can do it all remotely. So I talked about the phones, and then I'm talking a little bit about the other solutions out there. So what you'll run into is some competitors are like Wi-Fi phones. So people say, hey, why not use Wi-Fi phones in these areas? But again, Wi-Fi phone, lower frequency, doesn't travel as far, and a lot of your devices are going to be on Wi-Fi already. So why add a phone onto your already crowded network? So in this scenario, cameras, your laptop, tablets, watches, pretty much everything operates on Wi-Fi nowadays, right? So all that bandwidth, you want to save it for those type of devices. On the other hand, you want your voice to, usually your voice is going to take a lot of bandwidth because it is a constant communication. So you want it to be on a separate frequency, and that's what you get with this phone. The 900 megahertz, low frequency, high power, super long range, doesn't interfere with Wi-Fi. And that's what you want to take away from this comparison. Your other comparison, deck phones, which is again your standard cordless phone. If you put this type of solution out there, you know that there's a limit. You probably have to put a repeater or a base every 300 to 500 square feet. That's not much at all. So if you have a really huge facility, imagine how many repeaters, how many bases, and how much it costs. So compared to us, each base probably covers about 50,000 square feet. So when you link all 8 of them, we're talking about 250,000 square feet in a obstructed facility like a hospital or a hotel or any type of really large area. In comparison, we've done a lot of deployments when people are thinking about 2 solutions, and when they talk about a deck solution, it's usually about 4 times the cost, just because you have to have so many bases and so many repeaters in order to get the same coverage as a product. Quickly talk about some tips and best practices for deploying the product itself. So now you know what the product does, and we'll talk a little bit about how it actually is deployed. So what you get is, the first thing you get is your handset, which is again a very durable, rugged phone. You get the antenna. We have a short antenna and we have a high performance antenna that increases the signal strength. Your charging cradle. This is basic stuff that you can see on your standard phone, right? We also have a walkie model. So basically the difference between that regular handset and the walkie model is the walkie model doesn't allow you to make outbound phone calls. So these are for employees that don't actually talk to customers outside the building. They just communicate with inner staff. So this will still have all the functionalities of the walkie-talkie, the broadcast functions, and it can accept calls transferred to it. So if you have like maybe a hotel, the front desk answers the call, but then they still want to transfer the call to the maintenance man. The maintenance just has the walkie-talkie. They can still transfer the call to him. He can still talk to the customer and transfer the call back if he wants, but he doesn't normally take calls from outside. So that's where the walkie-talkie model comes into handy. We'll talk about the base station control. This is not too much to think about. It's just basically the brain of the operation. It synchronizes the call, make sure that all the calls are set up properly. You just need one per location. Make sure the calls are handed off from base to base. All the handsets function together. Keep in mind the base station is PoE powered, so this usually you want to put it where your MDF or your IDF is, so that you have a switch connected to that. EnGenius does sell PoE injectors, so make sure you have a switch at the location you're installing. If not, pick one of our PoE injectors. I've had a customer go out to the place and be like, "Oh wow, I didn't know it was PoE powered." So just want to make sure that we mention it, that you do have this ability to connect the BSC. The base unit themselves, again, they're sort of antennas or access points. You can view it that way. You spread them out throughout the building. They connect either PoE, or it can also be AC or DC. This one, you don't have PoE power. That's fine. You can still connect it to the one plug. Helps to be PoE powered, but you don't have to. So when you mount the stations, just remember to make sure you mount them just like your standard access point mount. You can ceiling mount them, you can wall mount them, you can just simply put it on your tabletop. We have people do that. They don't look that bad. They're just like your standard phone base. Your standard setup for the Duraphone Roam would be internet, your modem, router. Again, the switch connects to the BSC and the base if you want to do it that way, or the base can be just simply plugged into a WONG outlet. Hosted PBX or your own PBX at your location. Either one, both works. I'm going to skip this base deployment. Basically, you just want to make sure that your bases are kind of overlapping. I'm sure if you've ever done any type of deployment for access points, you kind of want to know, make sure that you have this kind of setup. So we talk about coverage, indoor and outdoor. So this is an example of a hotel that we did. Basically, you have a first floor with a parking lot and a swimming pool. So a good deployment for this, we put 2 bases in the building so that it covers your valet staff who actually goes out to the parking lot. So when they're out getting customers' cars, we can still call them. They're still not totally lost. If something changes, the customer changed their mind, hey, stay out there, leave the car out there, just walk back. We do that. Pool staff, if they make an order from the kitchen, the staff can call into the kitchen, make sure that they get the right order, bring it out to the pooling area. So we've had a hotel. This is an example of a hotel that we did. Odd shaped buildings. So in assisted living facilities, for example, or warehouses, there'll be really odd shaped buildings where coverage phone signal is going to be cut off just because the building is so weirdly shaped with walls in between, that when we deploy multiple bases like this, it can still cover the entire building and a staff member can walk from one end to the other. So this is an example of a side view of a multi-floor. So when you have multiple floors, you can put bases on the second, the fifth, the eighth, something like that, depending on how your signal strength between each floor, to cover a really tall high rise as well. As I mentioned, we can do like usually about a 12-story building with still very strong signal strength throughout the building. There are some tools that we use to measure the signal strength. So you can do it on the handset, or you can do it in the control panel on the dashboard as well. It tells you how much strength is the actual phone when you're deploying it as you're walking around the building. That's a good way of actually measuring your limits of where you should put your next base. So we make deployment very easy on this. We also offer antennas. So we have 3 versions. I talked about a little bit about the bottom left there, which is the peak gain, the high antenna, which comes included with the handset. The peak gain of it is 2.0 dBi, so it improves the performance a lot if you put it on the small handset. And we also have indoor and outdoor antennas. So the indoor antennas are scenarios where you have a really large warehouse with machinery in the middle. So we deployed this at a manufacturing plant where they had they're a printing company. So imagine big, huge metallic printing presses all over the building. We put these antennas on the ceiling of the building, of the warehouse there, and basically the signal just bounces up to the antenna and back down, and it was able to cover it in its entire facility. Same with the outdoor antenna. We put that outdoor. We actually had a scenario where a customer was a harbor where they had two buildings. They had one large building facility, and then they had a little remote building on the other side of the harbor. And there's actually 1 mile of water in between. And we actually set up two outdoor antennas to connect these two buildings together. So even in scenarios where there's large spaces in between, we were able to improve it with these antennas and get the signal. So what do you get when you have this type of thing? Of course, everyone knows it's better response time for the staff. The staff are more engaged. You can reduce accidents and mistakes, better team collaboration. And nowadays, it's very important that the staff stay connected, especially with all the things that are going on with emergency notifications. You can use the walkie-talkie function, you can use the broadcast functions, let your security staff know, everyone know there's a problem, and everyone can respond rapidly to it. So I think most of all, a few of our case studies, we've had them in Brookdale, which is one of the largest senior living facilities in America. They do very well. Their nurses love our phones. They walk around. They absolutely rely on them. We put them in supermarkets like Market Basket, a lot of other places, a lot of these type of chain stores as well. So when you get like an opportunity with a large chain store, you can sell hundreds of these phones very easily, given how many locations they have. Same with Farm Supply Company, which is a warehouse facility selling like plants and things like that. So they have a really large outdoor type space inside. So you can find lots of these case studies on our website as well. We've been selling these for 20 years, and we've had them in a lot of facilities, and you'll find them. It's funny, once you're aware of this product, you'll see people using them sometimes in some stores that you never think about, but they do very well. I think that's it as the product itself. If you know EnGenius, we've been around for 25 years now. One other thing, the thing I want to mention on this that's important is we're TAA compliant. So it is something that a lot of people ask for in communications on phone devices, that it is TAA compliant so that it can be safe to use for government and military and school and things like that. We have a dedicated team of account managers and a technical support team. So if you have deployments you need help with, we can definitely help you. If you have some ideas for some customers who are willing to try it, we can do a proof of concept for you as well. So you can come to us and you say, hey, I have this customer, they have this warehouse and they never been able to get phone coverage in there. Okay, well, we can give you a proof of concept for you and make sure that it works for you, and we can have a tech support team support you in deploying it as well. I think that's it, Julie.
Thank you so much, Tone. I appreciate that. It was a wonderful presentation. And I do have some audience questions for you. If you don't mind, I can read them off to you one at a time and give you an opportunity to answer. Let's get started with the first one. And you did touch on the range of the phones, but the question here is, if you don't mind talking again, the question says, what is the range of the Duraphone Roam cordless phone in different environments, indoor versus outdoor?
Yeah, so I talked about it, but let's see if I can go back to that
Yeah,
slide.
if you don't mind touching on a little bit again, that would be great.
Yeah, so I think we talked about the range of the phone. So one base in indoor, it covers about 50,000 square feet. Let me see if I can find that slide. I think it's just a lot easier to show. So indoor, it covers about 50,000 square feet, but outdoors, like it covers about 3,000 acres. So it's a really huge amount. Usually, if you have, like I said, if you have a customer that has a need for it, reach out to us. We can give you a proof of concept and then test it out. But I think the range is 50,000 square feet per base indoors, and then 3,000 acres outdoors would be kind of your measuring stick for now.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tone. I have the next question here for you. What kind of battery life can users expect from the Duraphone Roam handsets?
Yeah, great question. So it's about 6 hours of talk time and 48 hours of standby time. Also, the actual phone cradle itself has a place where you can store a backup battery as well. So 6 hour talk time, 48 hours standby time. You can buy a spare battery, put it on the base, and charge it. And we've had people do that, and you can swap out the batteries as needed.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Next question here. Are there any accessories available for the Duraphone Roam, such as, and you did talk about the battery, but the question here is such as headsets and belt clips?
Yes, so the belt clip comes standard with it, and we do offer headsets as well. I didn't show them in this presentation, but we do offer headsets, and the Duraphone Roam is Bluetooth compatible. So if you have a Bluetooth headset, you can also use that.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Next question here. Can you tell us about the warranty and support options that are available for the Duraphone Roam phone?
Yeah, so the Duraphone Roam is a 1 year warranty. Any product that's serialized has a 1 year warranty. We do have a easy, quick RMA program. If you have problems with the phone within that first year, we can quickly exchange it for you. Uh, Anything beyond that, we always try to check and see if it's an issue with our product or is it an issue with just usage. But it is a 1 year warranty.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Next question here. Is the Duraphone Roam compatible with VoIP services?
Yes, so I briefly mentioned it, but yes, it is compatible with pretty much any VoIP service. It's SIP 2.0. So most of the major brands out there I mentioned, Cisco, Avaya, Ring Central, etc. I can't list them all, but yes, we found that they're compatible with most of them. Works with most PBX as well, Mitel, Grandstream, etc.
Excellent. Thank you. Next question here for you. What security features are built into the Duraphone Roam to prevent things such as eavesdropping?
Yeah, so it is frequency hopping broad spectrum. I mentioned in one of the slides. Basically, it jumps frequency every 0.01 seconds to make sure that it is not intercepted. I know that with like UHF walkie-talkies, I didn't mention it, but UHF walkie-talkies have one bandwidth, and if you just connect to that particular bandwidth, anybody can eavesdrop and listen in a conversation. But here it's frequency hopping, so it doesn't stay on the same band, so it makes it difficult for people to intercept and eavesdrop. And that's why we use this in a lot of medical facilities because of HIPAA law and things like that. So we have them use them in assisted living and hospitals as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Last question here for you. Tone, can you tell us where these products are manufactured?
It is manufactured in Taiwan, and that's why it is a TAA compliant. It is a country that I don't know if you're familiar with TAA, but it's basically any country that has a trade agreement with America, uh, and usually those countries are human rights and things like that. So it's manufactured in Taiwan, TAA compliant. That's why we can use them in military and in government buildings and businesses and things like that.
Oh, that's so interesting. Thank you so much for that, Tone, and thank you for answering all of those questions for us today. And thanks again for everyone attending today's webinar. And if anyone has any further questions, please feel free to contact your sales rep or email us at sales@microcomtech.com. And if you wish to review any of the products mentioned and or shown today, please remember that this webinar presentation has been recorded and will be uploaded to our Microcom YouTube channel so we can all view it again, which I definitely do on occasion or whenever is needed. So I'm sure all of you do too. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Tone. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you, Julie.
Bye-bye for now.